I want to tell you about two people. The first person is 68 years old. He worked for 45 years. He showed up every day, he paid his taxes, he did everything he was told a responsible adult should do. And today, at 68, he is still working. Not because he wants to, because he has no choice. His Social Security check is $1,650 a month. His rent is $1,400. After utilities, groceries, and medication, there is nothing left. There is no investment account. There is no savings cushion. The 45 years of work produced no financial freedom whatsoever. The second person is 61 years old. She retired last year. Not because she had a massive income, her salary peaked at $78,000, but she made specific decisions consistently over 30 years, and those decisions compounded into enough wealth that work became optional in her early 60s. Same country, same era, completely different outcomes. And here's the number that should stop you cold. According to the Federal Reserve, 25% of Americans have zero retirement savings. 50% have less than $50,000. Only 10% are on track to retire with financial independence. Not 50%, not 30%, 10%. 9 out of every 10 people working right now will reach their 60s without the financial resources to stop working. They'll work until their body gives out, or depend on Social Security that barely covers basic expenses, or rely on family members who have their own financial pressures. That is not a fringe outcome. That is the median outcome. For most people, that is the default path. Today, I want to show you exactly why this happens, the specific, concrete reasons why the 90% end up where they do, and exactly what the 10% do differently. Not vaguely, specifically, with the actual numbers and the actual behaviors. Because the gap between these two groups is not luck, it is not income, it is not intelligence. It is a set of decisions made over decades that are available to almost everyone, and that most people simply never make. Let's talk about why, and then let's talk about how to be in the other 10%. Section 1. Why the 90% never make it. The 5 reasons most people run out of retirement before they run out of life. Let me be clear about something before I go into these. None of these reasons are about moral failure. They are not about being lazy or irresponsible. Most people in the 90% are trying. They're working hard. They care about their future. But they're operating inside systems, psychological, social, and financial, that are not designed to help them retire. Understanding these systems is the first step to escaping them. Reason 1. They trusted Social Security to be enough. Social Security was never designed to be your entire retirement income. When it was created in 1935, it was meant to supplement personal savings, not replace them. The average Social Security benefit in 2024 is about $1,700 a month. The average monthly expenses for a retired couple are around $4,500 to $5,000. That gap between what Social Security pays and what retirement actually costs is what personal savings are supposed to fill. But most people either don't know this or don't act on it. They spend their working years assuming Social Security plus a small amount of savings will be enough, and they arrive at 65 to discover a $2,500 to $3,000 monthly shortfall that they have no way to fill. The math is simple and brutal. Social Security covers roughly 1/3 of the average retirement income need. The rest has to come from somewhere. For the 90%, it doesn't. And it's getting worse. Social Security's trust fund is projected to be depleted by the mid-2030s, at which point benefits would automatically be cut by roughly 20% unless Congress acts. The people retiring in 20 years may receive significantly less than today's retirees. The assumption that Social Security will cover what it covers today is not guaranteed. Reason 2. They started too late and then tried to catch up. The number I want to put in front of you is this. $1 invested at 25 is worth $45 at 65 at a 10% annual return. $1 invested at 45 is worth $6.70 at 65. The same dollar, $45 versus $6.70. That is what 20 years of additional compounding produces. Most people don't start seriously saving for retirement until their late 30s or early 40s, often triggered by a wake-up call, a financial scare, a colleague retiring early, an article that makes the numbers real. And when they start late, the math requires either very high contributions, often unrealistic given current expenses, or accepting a retirement that's underfunded. Here's the specific number. To accumulate $1 million by age 65 starting at 25, you need to invest about $240 a month at 10% returns. Starting at 35, you need $665 a month. Starting at 45, you need $2,000 a month. Starting at 55, you need over $7,000 a month. Every decade of delay doesn't double the required contribution, it triples or quadruples it. Most people can't make up for lost time no matter how hard they try. The tragedy of starting late isn't that it's impossible, it's that it requires a level of sacrifice that most people realistically cannot sustain alongside mortgages, raising children, and the cost of midlife. The median retirement savings for Americans aged 55 to 64 is approximately $185,000. At a 4% withdrawal rate, that generates $7,400 per year, or about $617 per month. Reason 3. They treated retirement contributions as optional. Ask most people why they're not maxing their 401k, and you'll hear variations of the same answer. I'll do more when I'm making more. Right now, I need the money for other things. I contribute a little. Something is better than nothing. These are not irrational thoughts, but they are the thoughts that lead to the 90% outcome. Here's the problem. Something is better than nothing applied to retirement savings over a 40-year career produces catastrophic results, because something at a 3% contribution rate produces a retirement account that covers maybe 18 months of expenses, not 20 years. The 10% treat retirement contributions like rent, non-negotiable, first in line, the expense that gets paid before lifestyle, before discretionary spending, before any of the things that feel more immediate. This isn't easy. It requires discipline that feels unrewarding in the short term. But the alternative, working until 70 because you didn't build the asset base to stop, is far more painful than any short-term sacrifice. The financial industry has a term for the contribution rate needed to retire comfortably, the savings rate. Most financial planners say you need to save 15 to 20% of gross income across your career to retire with dignity. The average American saves about 5%. That gap, 5% versus 15%, is much of the reason 90% of people don't make it. Reason 4. They made expensive decisions that permanently reduce their investing capacity. This one is the compounding of all the individual financial mistakes that reduce the money available to invest over a lifetime. The car loans that consumed $600 to $800 a month for decades. The credit card balances at 22% interest that drained hundreds of dollars a month in interest payments for years. The house bought at maximum debt-to-income ratio that left no room for investment contributions. The lifestyle inflation that consumed every raise. Each of these decisions, made individually, feels survivable, but together, over 30 years, they represent an enormous reduction in the capital available for retirement investing. Let me put a number on it. The average American pays over $600,000 in interest over their lifetime on mortgages, car loans, credit cards, and student loans. That's $600,000 that went to lenders instead of investment accounts. Even capturing a fraction of that, say $200,000 over a lifetime, and redirecting it to index funds would produce an additional $2 to $3 million in retirement assets depending on timing. The 90% are not failing because they didn't earn enough. Many of them earned good money. They're failing because the gap between what they earned and what they invested was filled by interest payments, lifestyle inflation, and financial decisions that felt reasonable at the time but compounded into a retirement gap. Reason 5. They never had a specific written retirement number. This one sounds almost too simple, but I've seen it be the difference between people who make it and people who don't. Most people have a vague idea that they need enough for retirement. They know they should save more, they intend to figure it out at some point, but they've never sat down and calculated, what does my retirement actually cost? How much do I need invested to generate that income? Am I on track? If not, by how much am I short, and what specifically do I need to change? Without a specific number, retirement saving feels abstract, and abstract goals are easy to deprioritize. There's no urgency because there's no clarity about exactly what you're building toward. The 10% know their number, not approximately, specifically. They know what they need to generate each month in retirement. They know the asset base required to produce that income. They know whether they're on track, and they adjust when they're not. Clarity creates urgency. Urgency creates behavior. Behavior creates outcomes. The absence of a specific retirement number is one of the quietest but most destructive retirement planning failures that exists. Section 2. What the 10% actually do. The behaviors that separate the 10% from the 90%. Now let's talk about the 10%. Because I want to be clear, these are not extraordinary people. They're not people who inherited money or had exceptional incomes or got lucky in the market. Most of them are people with ordinary incomes who made specific, consistent decisions over long periods of time. And the behaviors that define them are learnable, copyable, available to anyone who decides to adopt them. Behavior 1. They started early and never stopped. The single most consistent behavior among people who retire with financial independence is that they started investing early, usually in their 20s, and they never stopped. Not during market crashes, not during career transitions, not when life got expensive. They understood intuitively or explicitly that time is the most valuable asset in wealth building, and they protected their investment timeline the way other people protect their salary. This doesn't mean they invested perfectly. They made mistakes. They had years where contributions were lower, but the habit of always investing something every month, regardless of circumstances, never broke. The compound effect of uninterrupted investment over 30 to 40 years is almost magical in its mathematical power. Even modest amounts, invested consistently and never touched, produce retirement-sustaining wealth. The key word is consistently, not brilliantly, not aggressively, consistently. Behavior 2. They calculated their number and built a plan around it. Every financially successful retiree I've studied has a number, a specific, calculated personal number that represents the asset base they need to retire. The calculation is not complicated. Here's exactly how to do it. Step 1. Figure out your monthly retirement expenses, not what you spend now, what you'd actually spend in retirement. For most people, this is lower than current spending because the mortgage is paid off, kids are grown, commuting costs disappear. A reasonable starting estimate for most people is 70 to 80% of current expenses. Let's say that number is $5,000 a month or $60,000 a year. Step 2, subtract guaranteed income, Social Security at your projected benefit amount, any pension, any other guaranteed income streams. Let's say Social Security will cover $1,800 a month. That leaves a gap of $3,200 a month or $38,400 a year that needs to come from your investment portfolio. Step 3, apply the 4% rule. This is the research-backed guideline that says you can withdraw 4% of your portfolio annually in retirement with a very high probability of never running out of money over a 30-year retirement. To generate $38,400 per year at a 4% withdrawal rate, you need $960,000 invested. That's your number. Not a million, not a vague a lot. $960,000. Specific, calculable, buildable. Once you have your number, you can back calculate your required monthly contribution to hit it by your target retirement age. That number becomes your investment goal, as concrete and non-negotiable as your rent. Behavior 3. They maximized tax-advantaged accounts before anything else. The 10% are almost universally obsessed with tax efficiency, not to the point of complexity, but they understand that paying unnecessary taxes on investment growth is one of the most avoidable destroyers of wealth. The priority order they follow: first, contribute enough to the 401k to get every dollar of employer match. This is free money and no rational person leaves it behind. Second, max the Roth IRA at $7,000 per year. Tax-free growth, tax-free withdrawals, the single most powerful long-term tax shelter available to most people. Third, if there's more to invest, contribute more to the 401k up to its $23,000 annual limit. Fourth, anything beyond that goes into a taxable brokerage. A person who maxes a Roth IRA from age 25 to 65, $7,000 per year, 40 years at 10% average returns, ends up with approximately $3.5 million. Every dollar of that growth is tax-free at withdrawal. At a 22% tax rate, the tax savings alone are worth over $700,000 compared to a taxable account. Most of the 90% are leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars in unnecessary taxes on the table simply because they're not using the right accounts. Behavior 4. They automated everything. I've said this in other videos, but it deserves emphasis here because it is foundational to retirement success. The 10% do not rely on remembering to invest. They do not rely on willpower to transfer money from checking to investment account. They do not make the investment decision fresh every month when they see their balance. Everything is automated. 401k contributions come out of payroll before they ever hit a checking account. Roth IRA contributions transfer automatically on payday. Index fund purchases happen automatically on the transfer date. This automation does two things. First, it removes the decision entirely. You can't spend money you never see. Second, it removes emotion from the process. When markets crash, the automatic investment still fires, buying shares at discounted prices without any willpower required. The 10% aren't more disciplined than the 90%. They've removed the need for discipline from the equation. Their system does the right thing regardless of how they feel about it. Behavior 5. They protected their contributions during hard times. Every person who retires comfortably goes through periods where maintaining contributions is genuinely hard. Market crashes, job losses, unexpected expenses, life disruptions. The critical differentiator is that the 10% protect contributions as the last thing to cut, not the first. When finances get tight, the 90% immediately cut retirement contributions. It's the easiest lever to pull. It doesn't hurt immediately. The pain comes 30 years later when they're calculating what those missing contributions would have compounded into. The 10% cut lifestyle first. They reduce discretionary spending, negotiate expenses, find extra income before they touch investment contributions. And if they do have to reduce contributions temporarily, they reduce, they don't stop, and they restore the full amount as soon as possible. This protection of contribution habit through difficult periods is one of the clearest behavioral differences between the two groups, and it's available to everyone. It requires no special skill. It requires only the understanding that retirement contributions are not a luxury. They're a non-negotiable infrastructure cost of your financial life. Section 3. The math of joining the 10%. Your personalized path. The numbers made real. Let me make this concrete for different income levels and starting ages, because I want you to see that this is achievable regardless of where you are right now. I'm going to use the goal of retiring at 65 with a $1.5 million portfolio, which at a 4% withdrawal rate generates $60,000 a year, or $5,000 a month. Combined with Social Security, that's a genuinely comfortable retirement for most people. Scenario 1. Starting at 25 with $50,000 income. Monthly contribution needed $460 a month, about 11% of gross income. At $50,000 income, that's $460 out of roughly $4,167 gross. After taxes, maybe $460 out of $3,200 take home. That's 14% of take home. Is it tight? Yes. Is it doable? Absolutely. Especially with an employer match reducing the effective out-of-pocket cost. The person who starts at 25 with a $50,000 income and contributes $460 a month consistently reaches $1.5 million at 65. They retire comfortably from a modest income entirely because they started early and never stopped. Scenario 2. Starting at 35 with $70,000 income. Monthly contribution needed $1,100 a month, about 19% of gross income. Harder, requires genuine commitment, but at $70,000, take home is roughly $4,500 to $5,000 a month, depending on deductions. $1,100 is roughly 22 to 24% of take home. This is tight but achievable, particularly if the 401k match covers part of it, and particularly if lifestyle is managed deliberately. A person who drives a used car, has a modest housing cost relative to income, and avoids lifestyle inflation has the room to make this work. The key insight: at 35, you cannot afford to invest a small amount. The math requires a serious commitment. But the outcome, retiring at 65 with $1.5 million, is still fully available. Scenario 3. Starting at 45 with $90,000 income. Monthly contribution needed approximately $3,200 a month, about 43% of gross income. This is extremely difficult. At $90,000 gross, take-home is roughly $5,800 to $6,200 a month. $3,200 is more than 50% of take-home. For most people with mortgages, kids, and established lifestyles, this is not realistic. So what does someone starting at 45 actually do? Option 1, lower the retirement income target. $1 million instead of $1.5 million requires $2,100 a month. Still hard, but more feasible. Option 2, extend the working timeline. Working to 70 instead of 65 adds 5 years of contributions and 5 years of compounding and reduces the retirement funding period. The required monthly contribution drops significantly. Option 3, plan for a hybrid retirement. Part-time work, rental income, or other supplemental income streams reduce the portfolio withdrawal need and allow a smaller asset base to be sufficient. Option 4, aggressive expense reduction now, dramatically reducing current lifestyle, downsizing housing, eliminating car payments, cutting discretionary spending to free up the maximum possible contribution. Starting at 45 doesn't mean retirement is impossible. It means the math is harder, the sacrifice is greater, and the flexibility of early starters is gone. This is the cost of delay that I talked about earlier. But even at 45, intentional action produces dramatically better outcomes than continuing on the default path. The Rule of 300, a quick retirement readiness check. Here's a simple rule that gives you a quick sanity check on retirement readiness. Take your desired monthly retirement income, multiply by 300. That's roughly the asset base you need. Want $5,000 a month in retirement? 5,000 times 300 equals 1.5 million. Want $7,000 a month? 7,000 times 300 equals 2.1 million. Why 300? Because 1 divided by 300 is approximately 0.33%, which represents a monthly withdrawal of about 4% annually. The 4% rule expressed as a monthly multiplier. This isn't a precise calculation. Use it as a quick gut check. If you want $5,000 a month and have $200,000 saved at 50, you need to accumulate another $1.3 million in 15 years. That requires roughly $3,700 in contributions at 10% returns. Is that realistic given your income? If not, something has to change. The timeline, the income target, or both. The Rule of 300 forces clarity. And clarity, as we established, is what separates the 10% from the 90%. Section 4. The retirement killers to avoid. What derails people who start right? Some people start with good intentions. They open a 401k, they contribute something, they tell themselves they're on track. And then, over the years, things happen that quietly derail the plan. I want to walk through the most common retirement killers, the specific events and decisions that pull people off the 10% path and back into the 90%. Retirement Killer 1. The 401k cash out at job changes. This one is so common and so destructive that it deserves special attention. When people change jobs, and the average American changes jobs 12 times over a career, they face a decision about what to do with their 401k at the old employer. The options are roll it over to the new employer's 401k, roll it into an IRA, or cash it out. Cashing out is financially catastrophic. You pay ordinary income taxes on the full amount plus a 10% early withdrawal penalty if you're under 59 and a half. A $30,000 401k cashed out could result in only $19,000 to $21,000 in hand after taxes and penalties. And you've permanently removed that money and all its future compounding from your retirement picture. $30,000 at age 32 rolled over and left untouched becomes approximately $524,000 at 65. Cashed out, it becomes $20,000 spent on something you won't remember. Yet, about 40% of workers cash out their 401k when they change jobs. This single behavior, repeated across multiple job changes, can reduce a retirement portfolio by hundreds of thousands of dollars. The rule is simple. When you change jobs, always roll over, never cash out, even if the balance is small, even if it seems like it doesn't matter. It always matters. Retirement Killer 2. Under-diversified and over-concentrated. Some people do invest for retirement, but they invest poorly, often in ways that either dramatically underperform or expose them to catastrophic risk. The most common version, too much concentration in their employer's stock. Employees who hold large percentages of their 401k in company stock have seen entire retirement savings wiped out when their employer failed. Enron, Lehman Brothers, companies that seemed completely stable until they weren't. Rule of thumb, no single stock should represent more than 5 to 10% of your retirement portfolio. Diversification is not just about returns, it's about survival. One company failing should not end your retirement. The other version, staying in money market funds or stable value funds because they feel safe. These options barely beat inflation. They're fine for a small emergency allocation inside a 401k, but they are not a retirement growth strategy. The correct default for most people building retirement wealth: low-cost, diversified index funds, S&P 500 or total market. Set it, automate it, rebalance occasionally, and leave it alone. Retirement Killer 3. Taking Social Security too early. You can claim Social Security at 62. Most people do, because the money is available, because they've been waiting for it, and because the immediate gratification of getting it feels compelling. But claiming at 62 instead of waiting until 70 permanently reduces your benefit by up to 30%, and that reduction is for life. It never recovers. The math on delaying Social Security is among the clearest in personal finance. Every year you delay from 62 to 70 increases your benefit by roughly 7 to 8%. Over an average retirement, delaying to 70 instead of taking at 62 produces tens of thousands more in total lifetime benefits for most people. If you're in good health and have the financial resources to wait, delaying Social Security to 70 is one of the highest return zero-risk decisions available in retirement planning. You're buying a larger guaranteed income stream for the rest of your life. The exception is if you're in poor health and have a shorter life expectancy. Claiming early may make mathematical sense. The break-even point, where waiting pays off, is typically around age 80. If you're unlikely to reach 80, claiming earlier may be better.
But for most people in reasonable health, the default should be to delay as long as financially possible. It is one of the most commonly missed optimization opportunities in retirement planning. Retirement Killer 4: Helping everyone else before yourself. This one is emotionally the hardest because it comes from good intentions. Adult children who need help, parents who need financial support, siblings in financial trouble, friends who need a loan that becomes a gift. The impulse to help people you love is not wrong, but consistently prioritizing others' financial needs over your own retirement savings at the expense of your own financial future is a pattern that ends your retirement. There's a reason flight attendants instruct you to put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. You cannot help anyone from a position of financial crisis. The most loving thing you can do for your children, your parents, and the people you care about is to build financial security that means you will never be a burden on them. The parent who depletes their retirement savings to pay for a child's college education may feel like they're making a sacrifice for their child's future, but if that decision means they retire broke and the child has to financially support them for 20 years, the sacrifice was actually not a gift. Fund your retirement first, fully, before college savings, before helping family, before any financial generosity that compromises your retirement trajectory. This is not selfishness. It is the sustainable foundation from which genuine generosity becomes possible.
Section 5. Your 10% Action Plan. The exact steps to join the 10% starting today. Enough analysis. Let me give you the specific action plan, in sequence, in order of priority, that moves you from the 90% path to the 10% path. Step 1. Calculate your retirement number this week. Use the calculation I gave you, monthly retirement expenses minus Social Security estimate divided by 4% equals your target portfolio. If you don't know your Social Security estimate, go to ssa.gov and create an account. It takes 10 minutes and shows your projected benefit at different claiming ages based on your actual earnings history. Write down your number. Make it real. Put it somewhere you'll see it. That number is what you're building toward. Everything else flows from having it. Step 2. Find out where you stand. Calculate your current retirement savings. Add up every retirement account, 401k, IRA, any pension value. That's your current position. Use the rule of 300 to calculate your gap. Current savings minus your target number equals how much you still need to accumulate. Then use a compound interest calculator, there are free ones everywhere online, to determine what monthly contribution at your current age and a 7% or 10% return assumption would close that gap by your target retirement age. You now have a specific monthly contribution target, not a vague save more instruction, a number. Step 3. Maximize your employer match immediately. If you are not getting every dollar of your employer's 401k match, you are turning down part of your salary. Stop doing that today. Log into your 401k account, find the contribution rate needed to receive the full employer match, set it to that rate. This takes about 5 minutes and produces an instant guaranteed return that no investment can match. If you don't know the match formula, call HR today. Ask one question: what contribution rate do I need to receive the full employer match? Then set your contribution to that rate immediately. Step 4. Open and automate a Roth IRA. If you don't have one, open a Roth IRA at Fidelity, Schwab, or Vanguard this week. The application takes 20 minutes. There are no minimums at most platforms. Set up an automatic monthly contribution. If you can afford the full $583 a month, $7,000 annual limit, do it. If not, start with whatever you can and increase it over time. Choose a target date fund or a simple S&P 500 index fund like VOO or VTI. Set automatic investment on the contribution date. Done. Step 5. Protect the system at all costs.
Automate. Never cash out a 401k at a job change, always roll over. Never reduce contributions during market downturns, keep buying. Never raid retirement accounts for non-emergencies, that money is not available. The plan doesn't need to be perfect, it needs to be consistent and protected. A good plan executed consistently for 30 years beats a perfect plan executed intermittently every single time. Check your net worth and retirement progress once a quarter. Increase contributions by 1% whenever your income increases. Leave everything else alone.
The 10% is not an exclusive club. Let me leave you with this. The 10% is not a group you're born into. It's not reserved for high earners or people who got lucky or people who started with advantages you didn't have. It's a group you join by making specific decisions consistently over a long period of time. The decisions are not complicated. Start early, calculate your number, maximize tax-advantaged accounts, automate contributions, protect them through hard times, avoid the specific retirement killers I've outlined. That's it. That is the entire separation between the person working at 70 because they have to and the person who retired at 62 because they could. The 90% outcome, working until your body gives out, depending on Social Security that barely covers expenses, watching your options narrow as you age, that outcome is not inevitable. It is the result of specific decisions and specific non-decisions made over decades. You are watching this video, which means you're aware, which means you have the chance to decide differently. The only question is whether you'll act on that awareness today or whether you'll feel motivated for a few hours and then go back to the default path that the 90% are on. The 10% is waiting for you. The math works. The accounts exist. The index funds are ready. The only variable is whether you start. Subscribe if this was useful. One new video every day, same mission every time.